From forging the greatest rivalry in UFC history to kicking off the most ruthless dogfest, here are the most iconic callouts in the UFC. You know, I gotta start with Jon Jones, and this time it's about his crazy rivalry with Daniel Cormier in the UFC, which started back in 2010, when they bumped into each other backstage at a UFC event. At first, things seemed cool, but then Jones had to take a jab at Daniel's wrestling skills, and that's when things got heated. Fast forward to 2014, when things got even more interesting. Jones was running out of opponents, and Cormier decided to drop down to 205 pounds, only to go after Bones. Daniel made his mark in the division with a win over Patrick Cummins, then a dominant victory against Dan Henderson, where he called out Jon. And man, did Cormier call out Jones in the most entertaining way possible. He shut Joe Rogan up, got on the mic, and straight up told the champ that he couldn't run forever, and no matter what, he was coming for him. He also boasted about his wrestling skills, claiming he could take Jones down 100 times if he wanted to. UFC fans went crazy over that call-out, making Cormier versus Jones the biggest feud overnight. The rivalry reached its boiling point in 2014 when they were set to fight at UFC 178. At a press conference to promote the event, things got out of hand and they ended up brawling. But Jones and Daniel did meet twice, and Jon let everyone know he wasn't ever running, destroying Cormier in both fights. But Daniel does have the balls, because the dude once summoned the Beast. Leading up to UFC 226, there were rumors flying around about Brock Lesnar making a comeback. After Daniel defeated Stipe Miocic, he wasted no time and called out Lesnar, who happened to be in the audience that night. The Beast incarnate stormed into the octagon, wasting no time in giving Cormier a dramatic push, who went flying away. It almost turned into an all-out brawl if it weren't for the security separating them. Daniel felt the power of Brock, but still had the guts to tell him he'll make the Beast go to sleep later, after which he tried pushing him to get one back, but the Beast didn't move a single muscle. Then, Lesnar grabbed the microphone and started trash-talking. He didn't hold back, calling out Francis Ngannou and Stipe, saying they were pieces of shit. He let everyone know he was coming for Daniel, slamming the microphone on the camera, then ending the interview in his usual intense WWE fashion. Things didn't quite work out as planned though, as Cormier went on to defend his heavyweight title against Lewis a few months later. But he didn't forget about Lesnar. He called him out again, even asking him to bring his WWE title into the mix. Dana White confirmed that Lesnar wanted the fight badly, and they believed everything was set for a 2019 showdown. But Lesnar's issues outside the cage made it nearly impossible, ending his chances to make a dramatic return. Let that be a lesson, that a good call-out doesn't necessarily have to lead to a fight. It's what happened with Yoel Romero after he knocked out Chris Weidman at UFC 205, which will forever be remembered. Romero's English isn't the best, but he didn't need words to make his point. After the fight, when it was time to name his next opponent, he simply pointed up to a skybox where UFC middleweight champion Michael Bisping was sitting. The camera caught Bisping giving Romero the good old middle finger, and from that moment on, the stage was set for some serious fireworks. Romero didn't hold back, telling Bisping he loved him and that they'd see each other soon. Fans were buzzing with excitement because it was just too funny. Yoel is scary, and his cussing Bisping probably gave poor Mike nightmares for over a year. Unfortunately, the fight between Romero and Bisping never materialized. But let's be real here, if they had fought, Romero would have been a heavy favorite to win, which is probably why Mike kept ducking him with too much on the line. Something that wouldn't make Chael Sonnen too proud, because he put everything on the line. And by everything, I mean his UFC career while calling out Anderson Silva. He didn't live up to his words in the end, but they made big headlines. Before 2010, Chael wasn't known for his mic skills, but everything changed when he got a shot at UFC middleweight champ Silva. Out of nowhere, Sonnen transformed into a trash-talking genius. He threw a number of witty insults at Silva, making himself the biggest villain in the UFC. But all the trash talk and maybe some performance-enhancing drugs couldn't help him beat the Spider. He lost to a fifth-round triangle choke in their first fight. To make things worse, Sonnen had to sit on the sidelines for over a year after a positive drug test. But his feud with Anderson was far from over when he finally returned. So, after defeating Brian Stann in his comeback fight, Sonnen did something crazy. He straight up called out Silva by saying, "Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck," looking him dead in the eyes. And Silva could do nothing but hide his face and smile as Chael challenged him to a rematch with a twist. If Sonnen won, Silva would have to leave the division. But if Sonnen lost, he'd leave the UFC for good. That's big stakes for a dogfight, making the call-out the talk of the town and the biggest thing in the sport at the time. When the fight was booked, it became the most anticipated showdown of 2012. But the most electrifying post-match interview goes under one name, and that's Michael Chandler. The UFC put on an epic card with a matchup between Chandler and Tony Ferguson, which had one of the most incredible finishes in history, with Chandler knocking out Ferguson with a front kick. After the win, Joe Rogan had the chance to interview Michael inside the octagon. As Joe asked him about the fight, Chandler took over the mic, delivering an iconic call-out that'll be remembered in the promotion's history. He called out two fighters, Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje, demanding rematches. But then, he turned his attention to none other than Conor McGregor and challenged McGregor, screaming his name. Michael suggested a fight at 170 pounds in the summer. Joe Rogan called it the best post-fight speech he'd ever heard, and Conor wasted no time responding on social media, expressing interest in eventually fighting Chandler. Those two are set to meet whenever Conor fixes his mess with the USADA, probably after 2023, but it won't ever be as ruthless as the fight that Nate Diaz created. When Diaz stepped into the octagon to face Michael Johnson, nobody had a potential fight with McGregor in mind. It didn't seem to make sense at the time. Diaz hadn't fought for a year since his loss to Rafael dos Anjos, while McGregor was riding high after his epic featherweight title victory over Jose Aldo. To make things more interesting, McGregor had never fought above 145 pounds in the UFC, while Diaz had always fought at either 155 pounds or 170 pounds. So fans and experts had their doubts about a matchup between them. But all those doubts were thrown out the window as Diaz dominated Johnson, wasting no time in unleashing an epic call-out at McGregor. In a fiery, expletive-filled rant, Diaz claimed that McGregor had taken everything he'd ever worked for, demanding a fight against him next. It was raw, unfiltered, and it caught everyone's attention. Joe Rogan had to put an end to it for being too explicit. Many fighters had called out McGregor before, but there was something different about Diaz's call-out. It felt real and spontaneous, not some pre-planned script. The fans loved it. They wanted to see Diaz go head-to-head with the Irishman. Although the UFC initially didn't book the fight, fate had other plans. When Rafael pulled out of his scheduled fight against McGregor, it quickly became evident that Diaz was the fighter fans wanted to see against the Notorious. And so it happened. McGregor versus Diaz headlining UFC 196, and it turned out to be one of the biggest shows in the promotion's history. The fight drew well over 1 million pay-per-view buys, capturing the attention of fans worldwide. 5 months later, their rematch shattered pay-per-view records for the company, proving the immense power of an effective call-out. So, from kicking off the most ruthless dogfest to forging the greatest rivalry in UFC history, those were the most iconic call-outs in the UFC.